Well, we're going to continue our study through Matthew chapter 5. Today we're going to cover the second half of the beatitudes. It may take a while for us to get through Matthew chapter 5. What I want to do today is I want to read all of the beatitudes, and then we're going to talk about the last 4. Without further ado, let's read Matthew chapter 5, starting at verse 2. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. And then we're going to cover these next 4. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the poor in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be sons. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others revile you, and persecute you, and utter all sorts of evil against you falsely, on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Alright, so starting in verse 7 here. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. So there are 2 kinds of mercy, and most people don't realize this. So if we turn to Luke chapter 10, so what we're going to find is the story of the Good Samaritan. I'm not going to sit here and read the entire story because maybe that's a story for another time in another video. Who knows? Maybe. So at the end of this parable, Jesus asks, which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? He said, the one that showed him mercy. And Jesus said to him, you go and do likewise.
Do it! Just do it!
Mercy in this case isn't someone saying, you've wronged me, but I'm not going to punish you for it. That's a different kind of mercy, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But what I want to focus on right now, if you are in need of help and someone helps you, you're showing mercy to them. People don't understand this. God's mercy is not unconditional. There's always a condition that comes with it. Even in the Lord's Prayer in Matthew chapter 6, which we're going to get there, he says, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. It seems as though it's super important to Jesus that if we want forgiveness for our sins, we have to show other people that same kind of forgiveness. God's going to treat you the same way that you treat other people. And maybe that's why it's so important that, as the golden rule says, do unto others as you would have them do to yourself.
You've heard of the golden rule, haven't you? Whoever has the gold makes the rules.
And then, of course, there is that other definition of mercy, which we're all probably a little more familiar with. If you wrong someone, and they have a right to punish you for it, and they choose to not punish you for it, then they are showing you mercy. We've wronged God, and we are in need of desperate help. In both these cases, we need God's mercy. So Jesus is saying here, blessed are the people who are merciful, who share God's mercy, for they themselves are going to receive it. Next beatitude. I'm not going to say that every time, don't worry. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Now this one has a lot of people tripping, because the thing is that when you read this, your first reaction is probably going to be something like,
the pure in heart are going to see God while they die, and that's why they're blessed.
I want to give you an alternative interpretation, but I want you to think about this for a second. If you are a sinner and you aren't pure in heart, and you die, aren't you going to see God anyway?
Good point, actually.
As an alternative interpretation that isn't new, I want you to think about this. The people who are pure in heart are God's children. People who are secular-minded, when they see the world around them, see absolute chaos. People who are pure in heart and have a Christian mindset, when they see the world around them, they see God through it. When I was a kid, I loved astronomy. That was like my very favorite thing ever. I just loved the scale of it all. But I never once thought about God's place in astronomy until I became a Christian, until I started pursuing God, until I had that pure heart. If you're a really secular-minded person and you see a bird flying through the air, you're not really going to think much of it. But a Christian mindset, those who are pure in heart, who see that bird flying through the air, is going to notice the beauty of God's creation, and that'll make them worship God even more. The pure in heart shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. One of God's most prevalent attributes is that he is a peacemaker. And what does that mean? Because usually when we think of the word peacemaker, we think that two groups are, about to go fight each other, and then you have one person who makes peace between them. And although that definition isn't wrong, it's not complete. A peacemaker is simply someone who gives peace to someone else. I have a really random example of this in my own life. When I was about 8 or 9, we went and we visited some relatives in California. They had a pool in their backyard, and as a gift for us, they brought us all a towel. Someone got a Batman towel, someone got a Transformers towel, and I got a Speed Racer towel. Now that I'm an adult, I know all about Speed Racer, of course. But when I was a kid, I knew nothing about Speed Racer.
What's Speed doing? Please don't smash into it.
And so I looked at my brother's Transformers towel, and I looked at my other brother's Batman towel, and I was thinking, like, wow, theirs is so much cooler than mine. And I remember right in front of the people who gave us the gift, I offered to trade mine for theirs. My parents told me that that was kind of rude and that I shouldn't have done that. Even the people who gave the gift seemed a little offended by it. That was so long ago, I hardly remember. But I remember I was crushed. I felt so bad. How could I do something so rude? My 8 or 9-year-old self just could not handle that. So I ran to the other room, and I remember I was crying and crying and crying. And one of my relatives, she took me and she picked me up. I don't know if she picked me up, maybe I was younger than 8 or 9. Anyway, she picked me up, she put me on the bathroom counter, and I remember she just wiped my tears away. And she told me that at her house, no one's allowed to cry. And she forgave me in that moment. I was so burdened by this thing that I had just done, which, if we're honest, wasn't that big a deal, but it was a big deal to me. And she stepped in and she gave me peace. Now, on that same California trip, we went to Disneyland, and I don't remember it. We went to the beach, and I don't remember it. We toured all over the place. We went to LA, saw a bunch of sights, typical tourist stuff. I don't remember any of that. But I remember the way that my aunt treated me that day. She gave me peace. I could see she was a child of God, and I recognized that, even from such a young age, and it stuck with me to this day. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you, and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So, people have mistaken this as 2 different beatitudes, but it's actually one. This is a tag that he inserts into the end of the beatitudes to kind of close off, saying this is my finishing statement of my opening statement. And as a side note, as someone who's studied public speaking, and by that I mean I've taken 1 community college course, this is an absolutely brilliant speech. It's almost poetic, and that's why I wanted to read the whole thing, because he gives all these statements, and then at the end he throws in a little tag here saying this one is extra important. So what's so extra important about this one? Something that I want you to really understand when you're thinking about this, he says for righteousness' sake, and he says falsely on my account, not on the account of anything else. I'm not saying politics aren't important. If someone persecutes you because of your political views, that's not the same thing as persecuting you because of Jesus. You can be persecuted for a number of things. If I walk out the door and someone has a problem with me because, I don't know, I wear blue shirts, and they say, I hate you because you wear blue shirts, and they give me the old right hook and they beat me up because of it. I'm being persecuted. He singled me out specifically and is now beating me up. But I'm not being persecuted for Christ's sake. As you progress in your faith in Christ, this thing will start happening where you'll see more of Jesus and less of yourself. And that'll make people very uncomfortable. If you are the person who doesn't swear in the midst of everyone swearing, or you're the person who doesn't talk about sexual immorality while everyone else does, if you're the person who doesn't drink while everyone else is drinking around you, it's going to make people really uncomfortable. And in fact, people will start hating you for it, because they're gonna say about you, oh, he thinks that he's better than us, and all sorts of things like that. The thing is, they're not persecuting you. They're persecuting Christ, because you're just acting like Christ, and they're persecuting you because of it. You see the difference there? Jesus says, if you become like me, and people hate you because you're like me, then really you're blessed. Yours is the kingdom of heaven. You're literally a part of it. That's a really cool thing. As we're wrapping up today's video, I want to do the same thing that we did last time, and just read over these and pray about them. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Ask God to show you what mercy means, to help you to live out your life in a merciful way. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Ask God to purify you. Oftentimes it's a very painful process, just like the purification of gold has to go through fire repeatedly. If you do ask God for purity, know that that's what the purification process looks like. And if you're willing to do that, this is a really powerful prayer. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. There are literally hundreds of people around you every single day who are in agony. If you are a child of God, it is your mission to go out there, talk to people, give them peace, because there is peace for them, but they don't know it. Show them what that peace looks like, and you'll be called a child of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Pray that you'll be more like Jesus. I'm not gonna tell you to pray for persecution, but I promise it will come if you are like Jesus. If you have any questions about anything, you know where to find me. And as always, pray for me, friends. And if you're watching this, I've already prayed for you. Bye.